So one of the hardest things to do is to remove a mortgage late payment. Now, as a credit consultant and credit repair company owner, over the last 20 years, I've tried everything from engaging credit bureaus, engaging the CEOs, getting the regulatory agencies involved, CFPB complaints, goodwill letters, and even suing the lenders. And what I've learned from this is I've come up with a 4-step process called the DSCL Method, which has consistently helped us remove mortgage late payments off people's credit reports. Now, so have a look at this. We are on United Wholesale Mortgage's website, and this is what they have to say about credit corrections. That UWM does not complete goodwill credit corrections, and they will not remove validly reported delinquencies. So it's very clear that they do not remove late payments through goodwill, and they do not honor such requests. If you were to feast your eyes on this, this is a deletion letter from none other than UWM, United Wholesale Mortgage. And if you read this carefully, it says they are removing the late payments reported from the credit reports. So this is one of the deletion letters that we received from UWM using the DSCL method. I'm going to show you here's one more from Right Path Mortgage, which clearly states they're removing late payments from Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and Innovis. So one thing I wanted to make clear is generic goodwill requests that you send out to mortgage lenders do not work. Now, let me get into the 4-step process. So this is an article that I've written. You could Google it, how to remove mortgage late payments from credit reports, #IMAXCredit, or you could use the link in this article, in this YouTube video that will direct you to this article. So if I go over this process, it starts with the DSCL method, which is discover, strategize, and execute. That's step 2, escalate and litigate. And there is a diagram I've made on how to navigate this process. So step 1 means discovery of facts. So you want to review your credit report, call the lender, and just play dumb. You want to figure out what happened, what months was I reported for, because the credit reports could sometimes be saying that you reported late for January, but in actuality it was a December payment that was not made. So you want to do a thorough discovery. And once you do so, you want to find out, was there a lender mistake here that I could pin on them? There may be, or there may not be. Now, if there is a lender mistake that you could pin, then you could go down the left column, which is sending a notice of error letter. And I go over in my article what a notice of error letter is. And basically, you could use one of many mistakes that the lender could have made, that they could have locked you out of your mortgage, online access. They may have had the wrong spelling of your street address and statements didn't get to you. However, you just can't make it up. You have to know that that's exactly what happened. So for instance, if I call the lender up and I ask him, hey, where did you send the statements to? And they have an address for me that they misspelled, then I could make that case. Now, on the contrary, if I've moved and I haven't told them where I've moved to, then that's not their fault. So going down one particular step would be going down the route of telling them that this was a lender error. Now, if that is not in the books, then what you could do is send them a validated goodwill request. And here's how that works. In a validated goodwill request, you're going to say that, okay, it was not your error, but there were some extenuating circumstances, which could be you're hospitalized, you had a death in the family, your bookkeeper didn't render the payment, you had set up automatic payments from your own bank and your bank messed up, your email was hacked. But either way, why I call this a validated goodwill letter is you need to have proof. If you're hospitalized, you need to have proof from the hospital that you were hospitalized. If you had a death in the family, you need to have proof that, hey, somebody close to me, my dad's spouse, passed away. Or if your bookkeeper did fail to send a payment on time, you need a letter from the bookkeeper on their letterhead with their signature. And you can bet your socks that the mortgage company will call to verify that. They always do. Now, so these are the two different routes that you could take. And if the lender says no to this, then you file a CFPB complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. My article goes over that as well. And over here, if the lender says they're not going to remove the late payment after you send a validated goodwill request with documented proof. And remember, by validated goodwill, I don't mean, hey, I just forgot to make the payment, or I didn't have money, or I lost my job. That's not a financial inability to pay does not qualify you for a removal. So if your validated goodwill request doesn't work, then you go and send a letter to the CEO's office at that particular point and say, hey, here's the validated goodwill that I sent. Here's proof I had sufficient funds to make the payment, and please consider this. You do not just write to the CEO and say, hey, I just forgot to make the payment and please remove this. That is for them against the law to do so. They're going to say no, and later on you're going to stunt your chances of removing the late payment. Now, if you're not able to go down either of these tracks, there's no error that the lender made and you don't have any extenuating circumstances, then reach out to us and we can look at credit reporting coding violations and see we could go down that route perhaps. So all is not lost, but if your case fits into either one of these two columns, then go ahead and kind of take your shot. Now, generally what we do after this, if this doesn't work, then what we end up doing is we end up taking legal action against the creditor, and that often gets us results. And keep in mind that getting late payments removed is not the easiest thing to do. You need to be pretty methodical about it. And on top of that, please don't just shoot from the hip, because they're going to check every little thing. They're going to fact check everything. So if you say, hey, I called in to make a payment and so forth, they'll be able to look at the phone record. And again, I'm referring to recent mortgage late payments. If you have a late payment that was incurred several years ago, you could try to challenge it with the credit bureaus. And conventional wisdom basically suggests that if the lender no longer has a record of you in their system, then a credit bureau dispute may end up working if the late payment you believe is questionable. But for recent late payments, credit bureau disputes do not work. And that's why you have to go down the route of getting the mortgage lender to agree to remove the late payment. Now, I hope this was helpful information. Keep in mind that mortgage late payments, like other late payments, stay on the credit report for 7 years. Now, the major impact that they have on your credit report is going to be for about 2 to 3 years. After 2 to 3 years, you're going to get 50 to 60% of the points that you lost back. Now, it's important to know that if you've got perfect credit and the score's taken a big hit due to these mortgage late payments, it's not the only thing you need to worry about. Lenders will go ahead and, I'm talking about credit card companies, they will be checking your credit report on a biannual basis, every 6 months to 12 months. And if they see your score has gone down or you have a mortgage late payment, they're going to shut down your credit line or reduce your credit limit, which is going to further bring your score down. So take action. Use this process, and if this doesn't work out, reach out to me. If you're stuck somewhere, info@imaxcredit.com. That's info@imaxcredit.com. And if you need to hire us, here's what I guarantee is we don't charge you until and after we actually get deletion letters. So if we're not successful, you're not billed a cent. Either way, best of luck. Let's go ahead and roll that dice.